Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review, and today I'm going to be talking about Dead Space 3. A story that takes you all the way back to discover the origins of the Necromorph terror. The tagline reads, "Discover the truth, stop the plague, save mankind." That is all. Players also now have the freedom to go planet-side in Dead Space 3 and explore a wider variety of locations, from claustrophobic corridors to big planets. Easy drop-in, drop-out cooperative play with a full campaign in single-player and co-op modes. No pressure to side with one or the other, but with equal attention paid to both. Considering that Isaac is an engineer at heart, crafting has now become available at the series staple known as the weapons bench. Players can scavenge and create their own combination weapons and even share them with their co-op buddy. Not interested in crafting? That's fine, because you can find pre-made blueprints throughout the game that will automatically craft said weapons for you with no muss and no fuss. So does Dead Space 3 stand alongside its predecessors, and above all, does it deliver? Let's take a closer look. Isaac Clarke is back, only this time he's a wanted man. Old faces return, as well as some new ones, and the Church of Unitology plays its biggest role yet in what I presume is the final chapter in the Dead Space franchise. The story was written by Anthony Johnston, one of 3 writers from the first Dead Space, and though I heard he wasn't so keen with the new sort of action focus, he really did a great job. He lays a solid foundation for a thoroughly entertaining story. But holy crap, what happened to Ellie? And I understand this is probably more of a visual thing, but I'm mentioning it here. In Dead Space 2, she was this natural, kind of exotic looking beauty with a sort of masculine jawline. And now, plastic surgery? I mean, she got her eye fixed, so maybe she just rearranged her entire face while she was at it. Or she ran into Elena Fisher so hard, in fact, that she now resembles Fisher slightly. Isaac Clarke thankfully didn't suffer from the 10 surgeries in one sitting treatment. Though he looks a bit tired and grey, he's still the same old Isaac, only much, much cooler. In some respects, and from a narrative perspective, he's a bit like the Aliens edition of Ripley. He has all the experience, from engineer to survivor to kick-ass fugitive, so not only is he helpful to all of those around him, but he has common sense. You won't hear him stating the obvious or trying to be funny. He's just using the things he knows and has learned to make it through. Initially though, the supporting cast meant very little to me. I liked them well enough, but no one was bowling me over. It wasn't until some of them were in jeopardy that I realised how much I really cared about them and didn't want them to die. Go figure. The love triangle was a little underplayed, and the story drags somewhat in the middle, but the slowing of pace is hardly noticeable, and it really does swiftly move on once the characters get out of the icy cliff tops. The villain, as well, leader of the Unitologists, was quite forgettable. He's English, he wears glasses, and has delusions of grandeur, and that's pretty much all you really need to know about him. And without co-op, Carver's character development is patchy. Having said this, these issues tend to disappear behind the action, and overall entertainment factor, which is quite high. For some reason, I'd set myself up to expect a poor attempt at narrative in the 3rd installment. It may have been because a comparison between the Alien movies and the Dead Space franchise had been drawn in the Smith house. Dead Space 1 was Alien, Dead Space 2 was Aliens, which would leave Dead Space 3 to be the bad one, and heaven forbid they should ever make a 4th. Sorry, Joss. But I was pleasantly surprised. The voice acting was first grade, the story progression was logical, the writing itself clean, engaging, and natural. Characters were well-rounded and believable. I would say that the story of Dead Space 3 is like a solid sci-fi summer blockbuster. It's not what I'd call overly adventurous, instead paying more attention to the solid devices and characters at hand, so they wind up staying focused and cohesive in all of its elements. That's not to say that there aren't a few little mysteries and twists and borrows from other fictions. Overall, I'm surprised that they didn't advertise the crap out of Dead Space 3's story. It's my favourite story out of the entire series. There are definitely pros and cons to the gameplay of Dead Space 3, and while the pros are commendable, the cons... let me explain. The movement is sluggish. It felt like Isaac was sedated, and because of this I'd find myself in situations that just shouldn't happen. For example, whilst I was trying to kill 2 necromorphs, I was backed into a corner. Trapped by one of their tentacles, I couldn't move fast enough in either direction to escape, and punching or shooting did little to help me, and this happened a lot. This isn't challenging, it's fundamentally broken, and it happens far too often in game to be acceptable. It's as if the Dead Space series has gotten faster and faster in pacing of play, with more of a focus on action, adrenaline, fast-moving and erratic enemy AI, yet movement is still trapped in the old ways of Dead Space 1, which worked for that game. Because even though the first Dead Space was an action horror, it was slower paced and more contained. But the movement of said game has no place in Dead Space 3, and doesn't catch up to the rest of the adrenaline-packed experience. Sure, they added a cover system, but it was barely worth the effort, especially against enemies with sightlines. Then we have the scavenger bot. Great feature, but not explained well enough. You are literally handed this piece of old tech, told that it can find really useful items throughout levels, and how to equip it. The end. So you waltz around levels trying to figure out if the little doodad is pointing in any one direction, if the flashing means anything, and if you're me, assuming that the faint wub-wub noise is just a part of the setting. The truth is, the wub-wub is there to indicate if you're in a prime position to place the bot, and how to get there via a hot and cold type method, which works fine, but where was all of this info when we picked it up? A little nod in the right direction would have been nice, seeing as the sound the bot generates can easily be mistaken for ambient sound. But above all, combat can be infuriating, like throw your controller in a rage, infuriating, like never want to touch the game again, infuriating. You get the picture. There are points in game that don't make you feel like one man or woman against the odds at all. Instead, it just feels plain unbalanced. They haven't expanded the corridors, only filled it with more stuff. Too many breeds of high-level enemies are unfairly crammed in at points, of which you have limited choices and no way to gauge how to approach the situation. Whereas enemies and combat areas were more strategically placed. In, say, Dead Space 2, think of the baby necromorphs in the nursery. Here it's as if enemies are spitwads just being flung at you. Because of this, the strategic dismemberment feature that made the game so incredible is now lost. You simply don't have the time in these frantic skirmishes to do anything other than hold down the trigger and hope it slices and dices the right areas at the right times. A game like this needs responsive controls, open levels, and strategic variation. Now this is where the issues stop, because on the scare front, Dead Space still hasn't lost its touch. Crafting on the bench had the right idea and was a well-rounded experience. You can upgrade weapons with circuits that will be better suited to specific weapons than others, so be sure to try them on for size. You'll also pick up spare parts that you can add to pimp out your current weapon, or use the redundant ones to craft a whole new one. This probably doesn't sound too impressive, but there are a lot of combinations, and you can boost these in any way possible depending on what you've found. My plasma cutter, for example, boosted my stasis power and that of my co-op partner. I also liked how the appearance of the weapons changed dramatically, because, you know, I'm shallow like that. Shopping for medipacks, ammo clips and such has been axed though, but you can craft these from scrap metals as well as brand new circuits. And the same can be applied to suit upgrades, in which you spend scrap metals, gels and more to boost up each feature. I want to add that I didn't actually engage in the microtransactions, but I did just fine without them. If you depend on your scavenger bot, you can find a lot of materials, sans money. Lack of on-the-couch co-op was annoying, but all in all this feature was entertaining. It fleshed out the character of Carver and opened up little side quests you otherwise would not be able to complete. You can share weapons and the like, and combat situations run a little smoother. Exploration, stasis, anti-grav, the objective route finder and kinesis are all back, and they really haven't changed at all. There are also quite a few moments in game that will require hacking or puzzle solving. I have to say these weren't wasted. Every puzzle felt different from the last, so you never feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. The setup of the levels are also very different in this installment, and I liked it. You can travel to different ships in a flotilla, which gives you the illusion of freedom. The game itself feels very substantial because of this, and moves at breakneck speed. There are some elements that transform very solid gameplay into frustrating chaos, which is just bad design, not to mention downright unenjoyable. Yet the team at Visceral succeeded in some of their new ideas and stayed true to older ones. The flow and pacing is fantastic, and the length is by no means insulting. My playthrough clocked in at around 18 hours, and that was without most of the side missions, so with, I should imagine you're looking at around 20 plus. However, I don't think the pros outweigh the cons. I'd say they're about even. I've always loved the visuals and environments of Dead Space. I think I may have mentioned this in practically every Dead Space review, and I'm not disappointed here either. Just when I think that they've outdone themselves, they create a new setting I love more than the previous. For example, I loved the little space shop at the beginning of the game, and the kind of rusty, tomorrow's technology, today look of the biology laboratories on Tau Volantis, not to mention the alien ruins. The environments are as much a personality or character in this series as Isaac Clarke, always have been, and as is evident here, always will be. My only qualm is that some arenas in-game felt just that, like an arena. You could always tell when a big fight was coming because the setting lacked all the personality seen in other environments, and if and when this seemed to occur, you were almost always up against humans, or more human-like necromorphs. But most of the time there were little attentions to details that I really appreciated. For example, the greenish lights shining from Clarke's eye strips cast beams on the walls around him, depending on how contained the space was. And the ambient lighting, whether it's a red overtone or slices of harsh white light, are oppressive and make you feel at a major disadvantage. And for those of you who don't know, in a horror game, this is good. I also love, and likely always will do, the menu designs in-game. They capture that 80s science fiction look that I so dearly love. Hologram screens are neon bright, but still appear streaky, grainy and boxy, with little time spent on streamlining, in the verse this is, unlike today's lightweight and minimalist technologies. And lastly, the character models are much smoother, much more effortless. Time was taken on supporting characters to make them look unique, which was nice for a change. I've mentioned my issue with Ellie's transformation, but other than that, it's all good. No, really, we even get to see Isaac in casual wear. Who knew that day would ever come? Overall, besides the one little niggling problem, I have nothing bad to say about the environments and the art style. I mean, they're world class on every level. Is it just me, or do a lot of menu themes these days resemble the Spider-Man score? Seriously, are they all blending together to create some kind of loving homage, or what? Anyway, overall I liked the Dead Space 3 score. It's my favourite out of the 3 installments, bar none, for a few reasons. The main being that most games use looped, level-oriented melodies, or big, orchestral, movie-like scores to accompany what's going on screen. If games use both, it's strictly separately. This game manages to do both simultaneously. It shifts effortlessly to a point where I'm not sure if it shifts at all. Kudos Graves and Hannigan. And yes, if you were wondering, I did just mention 2 names, because Jason Graves, I hope I'm saying that right, and James Hannigan both score and share the responsibility for scoring Dead Space 3. Graves switches from big, ominous sounds to more intimate soundscapes on several occasions, but his forte really is in weaving together a complex tapestry of sound that will terrify. His tracks are fragmented and chaotic, featuring booming undertones and heavy drums and shrieking violins, and it works beautifully. It would seem that Hannigan is in charge of the more cinematic moments and big orchestral numbers. His pieces are a lot more heartfelt and graceful. Violins are used to their fullest potential, as is the brass section, and often presents us with melodies you'll want to listen over and over. He experiments too with faster-paced action tracks and synth to accompany the orchestra. Think more Hans Zimmer's Inception score than Jack Wall's Mass Effect. I think the score's biggest asset is that it enhances everything in-game in every way imaginable, which is what a good score should do, so in that sense it is a complete and utter success. In the story department, Dead Space 3 delivers tenfold on an undersold story. Crafting also delivers. As a concept, it's solid, and its execution too is quite strong. Co-op was thoroughly worthwhile on both a gameplay and narrative perspective, and often brings more to the experience. So based on its marketing campaign alone, yes, Dead Space 3 does deliver. That being said, the combat often brings down the experience, with little care taken to enemy placement and the intimate horror of alien dismemberment. Little time was also spent outlining newer features, yet older ones were re-established to players. But based on the experiences of Dead Space 3, I wouldn't be opposed to a Dead Space 4, providing that they continue with the great sound design, great visuals, great narrative, and work on the areas of gameplay that really do let the experience down. So that was my review. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave your comments and opinions on Dead Space 3 in the section below. I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review. I can hear you moving. That's right. I was just gonna laugh anyway. I felt it brewing in my belly. You know how laughs like that work? Oh. Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review. Oh no! I think it's because I just had caffeine. That was a bit of a mistake. Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current No, because now I can feel it starting. Grab it! Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review, and today I'm going to be talking about Dead Space 3. Okay, at least I got it out that time. Okay. 100% correct. I have one sentence to say and I can't even do that. Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release. Oh shit. No! Oh god. Hey everyone, this is Meg with oh god damn it, I'm gonna do Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review, and today I'm going to be talking about Dead Space 3. Yes! I did it!